Sinners and saints, dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
How you doing, sinners and saints? I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're feeling sexy. I hope you're horny if you want to be. I was watching a documentary on HBO Max, and it was called, they called him Mostly Harmless. And it really did strike a chord with me. I'm not going to provide too many spoilers here, but it's about a guy who was a hiker who they find his body at his campsite. He is dead. The people that are aware of him know him by his hiking name, Mostly Harmless. And the documentary is about the effort that was undertaken to identify him and how many people that got involved in the story. What intrigued me about it is that, just the enormity of the effort, first of all, but then when he was identified and people learned some not so great facts about the man. And that got me to thinking just about people in general. Well, like myself, I always wonder what people will think or what they'll say about me when I'm gone. But in this case, you had a mystery, and the people that had known him on the hiking trails, like the Appalachian Trail, they didn't know anything about him from before that time. And we all have a past. He has a past. And I guess that was what got me, was that people were not so fond of him when they found out some truths about him that they didn't like. There was a lady that spoke of him, and she said, I believe the stuff in his past is true, and I created this person from the one that I knew. Those brief meetings on a hiking trail and those brief discussions provided her an image of a person that wasn't a complete story. And I think she hit the nail on the head with her observation. It wasn't wrong what she thought, because the man provided an image of himself at that moment that she liked, that they all liked. And it kind of makes you think about what I've talked about before, about learning from your past, but not letting it be a factor in your future other than maybe protecting yourself. But if people are not going to give you a second chance, how do you overcome that? This may be an ironic topic for me to talk about, since Alan After Dark itself is all about my past, a lot of the stories I've told. But I just wonder about the aspect of holding it against someone. If this is the person you knew and you didn't know anything else from their past, how does that make a difference? It does depend on what happened in the past, right? If he's a killer, yeah, I'd want to know about that. I don't know if I need to know if you've had mental health issues. Do I need to know if you tried to kill yourself once before, unless you wanted to talk about it? How much do you need to know about someone? That's my question, I guess, that I'm asking. And I'm asking of myself. I could go all day, every day talking about my life. You guys would be bored to tears with it, but every one of us could. All the little things that we do all day long. And one of the big things now is reality TV, which I don't really watch, but I dismiss it out of hand that it's actual reality. It's how the editors, the director, the producers put the show together to provide you a situation that may be far from the actual truth. Yes, they're filming it in a real type environment, but how much of that is really factual and accurate in the context of what was happening? The same could be said about ourselves. If we're trying to make a good impression with someone, we're not going to necessarily tell them all the bad things first, are we? But I'll say this, I'd have to know right up front if you are a supporter of the orange turd, because there's no way in hell you're ever getting in my pants. Jesus. We talk a lot about gay people coming out of the closet, but honestly, there are all kinds of closets people are hiding in. There are all kinds of struggles that people that you know and love are suffering with that they never reveal. I'm going to tell a story That's not about me necessarily, but it affected my hometown when it happened. In the everyday grand scheme of elementary school, we're trying to make sure that our homework is completed, that we pass every test. We just get through it. And we sometimes make lifelong friends or friends that last through our time in school. And do we really know anything other than the impressions that we have of the people that we see at school? I mean, unless you're spending the night with a classmate, things like that, you don't have any clue what the rest of their life is like. That applies in every situation you can think of. The people you work with now, the people that you see every weekend at happy hour, we just don't have a clue what goes on behind closed doors. I remember that night, the phone ringing and my mom answering it. She would always answer the phone unless it was very late at night, then my dad would do it. But she answered the phone and we could hear her talking, and she suddenly called out my name. She said, "Alan, do you know somebody in school by the name of Kenneth?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, he's in a grade ahead of me." And she said, "He just shot and killed his father." In a small town like I was raised in, something like that, news like that travels very, very fast. And probably everybody in the whole town knew that this had happened within an hour of it happening. That's all we knew, was that Kenneth had killed his father. Later, we come to know that his father was very abusive, had beaten him several times throughout his life, and he basically fought back, for a lack of a better description. Let me clarify too, I was in the 6th grade. He was in the 7th grade when this happened. And obviously, even with the truth coming out, there are still rumors. And that's why I've changed his name, because I don't want people trying to figure out who and where and when this all happened. But the story got out that that night he had been with some friends and they dropped him off. But apparently he had gotten home later than he was supposed to get home. He had some sort of curfew, and his father was drunk and confronted him in the front yard of their house, and apparently was reaching down to take off his belt to beat him with it. And he had a gun and he used it. Initially, he was charged, even though he was very, very young. But basically, it was all revealed that he was abused, and the DA basically decided that it was self-defense, but he had to stay in a home for troubled children up until his 18th birthday. After that, I don't know what happened. None of us would have ever guessed that that was going on. None of us saw any signs that I was aware of. But then again, I was in 6th grade. I'm like 11 years old, 10 years old, something like that. I don't think my brain was even comprehending that such things happened, even though they should have, because there have always been abusive parents and there always will be. It's unfortunate, though, that in the South, they really do emphasize that scripture in the Bible of sparing the rod and spoiling the child, which, by the way, isn't even in the Bible. The actual phrasing in the Bible, I believe it's in Proverbs, "He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him." That's what the Bible actually says. And in the South, the old South, it was justified through that Bible verse for a lot of abuse of kids. I promise you it was. Now, let's fast forward to my high school years. And if you go back to the very first episode of Alan After Dark, when I talk about my epiphany, my realization of being gay, and it was thanks to the guy on the school bus that I called Grady Thomas. In a later year in high school, he gets on the bus, and I'm horrified. Several people are. He has got bruises on his face, a black eye. He looks like he's been in some sort of terrible car accident or something. And the girl sitting beside me was a classmate and a friend of mine who lived nearby where Grady lived. I asked her, I said, what in the world happened to Grady? And she said, his dad did that to him. He was mad about something that Grady did and he beat him up over it. As far as I know, nothing ever happened to Grady's father, but to be so blatantly obvious with the abuse, it was shocking to me. And it just made me wonder how bad his home life really was. I know those are extreme examples of what I'm talking about, but it begs the question, Grady's father, should he be forgiven that and be trusted in the future? If you didn't know that about his father, you could say he is a fine, upstanding man, couldn't you? Kenneth's father, I'm sure people thought he was a pretty good man until the truth came out about what was happening. I guess it's a fine line, isn't it, when you start thinking about it? Should you not forgive certain things from people's past? Are there certain things that aren't worthy of a second chance? I guess that's for all of us to decide, isn't it? But let me just add this. I don't forgive child abuse, period. I don't forgive hurting someone else physically. I don't believe that warrants that person ever being in my life. So for me, that would be a line that a person has crossed that would affect a relationship, a friendship with me. But in general terms, what would be the things that would make you not be friends with someone or date someone? I guess if you have a reputation for being a love them and leave them kind of guy, I think that would merit caution, wouldn't it? How many of us get on social media and research someone's timelines? I bet you're like me. You meet someone and they come off as very interesting. You just have to look and see what you can find out on Facebook, on Twitter, TikTok, whatever. And have you ever changed your mind based on what you've seen on their timelines? I bet you have. I know I have. One time, this guy was trying to impress me, so he was messaging me, and he said that he was a colonel in the Army, but unfortunately for him, he spelled colonel, Kernel, you know, like a kernel of corn. So, yeah, I knew right away he was a liar. That kind of killed the conversation, don't you think? Had I been smart, I would have replied back, really? You're a colonel? Well, I'm popcorn. I really doubt that he would have gotten that joke. But also, there's always that fear that the person you tease like that or reject could turn into Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction. It could happen. You know it can in this day and age. And for somebody like me who spends way too much time watching true crime dramas and documentaries, I suspect half the people that I work with could possibly be murderers. I guess talking about this probably seems foolhardy for this podcast because I don't know that I'm trying to impress anybody at any given time. I would try to impress Henry Cavill, but the way I would impress him isn't with words.
Oh my God.
Damn.
It just has me thinking about impressions and the secrets we all keep. Yes, Alan After Dark is about my life and my experiences, but clearly I'm not telling you everything. I'm certainly not telling you where I live. I'm not going to give you a lot of my personal information. I am someone who's had to deal with a stalker before. Go back and listen to that episode, and you'll see why I am on guard a little bit more than some people would be. I'm always a bit wary, a bit suspicious of people, but I hope that I'm always open and receptive to people that are good. But isn't it interesting how a person's name could be mentioned in a happy hour conversation, and you can get 5 or 6 different opinions of that person? There are people in this world that hate me. Some might be justified, others are not. And I'm telling you right now, sinners and saints, there's someone out there that probably hates you too. So the question becomes, do you want to do something about it, or do you just let it go? I usually just let it go. I think just staying clear of someone, trying not to rock the boat, it brings a sort of peace to the situation. I'll give you another example. There's a guy in the past couple of years that I got close with. I was becoming quite fond of him. I wasn't thinking about a relationship necessarily, even though certain times it would cross my mind and I would think about the possibility, the what ifs. But suddenly he stopped talking to me. He won't come near me. He's actually avoiding happy hour, it feels like. And I have to wonder, did I do something? Did I say something? I just don't know. And I have been scratching my head about it for weeks now. Other people have mentioned it. They've said, you two were like really close there. It seemed like you were getting along. We even thought you might be dating. And now suddenly you don't speak to each other or even sit near each other. And it seems awkward. And I just have to shrug. I don't know what else to say because I don't know what happened. And I know he's the kind of person that if I were to confront him over it, even though that sounds like too aggressive of a word to use there, just ask him about, did I do something? I think it scares him off even further. But obviously it is bothering me. And I'm the first person, to say that I don't give a rat's ass what people think about me. Well, obviously this person, I do care what they think about me. But if he did care for me, he would have come to me and said, hey, you did this, you said that. And he's never even done that. So I just know he's the kind that you just have to step away from and leave alone. And maybe at some point we can sort of reconcile. I just find it a mystery. Have you ever had that experience before? But everything is so technical now. A lot of communication is via text. And I always feel like some conversations need to be face to face. But it is easier to avoid the situation. I'm breaking up with you in a text message is a lot easier. It's a cop-out if you ask me, but if you're afraid of the person that they might pull out a knife or a gun and start shooting, yeah, I would do it with a text message as well. Or just hope that they got bored with me and just be done with me. It happens enough in my life anyway. People that I think are my friend that I've tried to be friends with turn out not to be. Some of them have hurt, but most of them you get over one way or another. I guess I'm really talking about perception, aren't I? Perception versus reality. But if I've known someone for 20 years and that's when the relationship ends, the friendship ends, it certainly wasn't my perception that was wrong. It was some event that happened, a situation that caused the relationship to end. Is this my overthinking again? Have you all had friendships end and you not really know why? And you just like that, you let it go? I wish I could do that. But that goes back to my whole thinking about not caring what people think. But if I was a friend with you, if we were friends for that long, I obviously do care about what you think and how you feel. I guess, I'm thinking about like when I was dating someone and it didn't work out. I remember a guy that I thought could be a good match for me, and he just embarrassed me. He embarrassed me in front of friends so badly that I ended the relationship the next day. I didn't even want to hear a reason why he was behaving the way he was. It wasn't about, I just had enough. And I guess if the feelings were strong enough, the bond was strong enough, you wouldn't be looking for reasons to end the friendship, the relationship, right? It wouldn't matter what the past had involved, but what's going on right now, if that makes any sense, which it probably doesn't. I've had a couple of guys ask me out on a date recently, and I wonder if it's about me being the bad boy Do people still believe that they can tame the bad boy? Because this boy ain't going to be tamed. I'm going to just be me. And so if you see me drunk and you don't like that personality, then we probably shouldn't be dating. We're probably lucky that we're even friends. And that would be your perception of me when I'm drinking. It isn't truly a reflection of the person that I really am. So I guess I should take that into consideration when I'm looking at someone that I might want to go out with. I mean, if we're just hooking up, who gives a rat's ass, right? That's just about the dick, right? Leave it to me to cheapen this episode with some sexual talk at the very end. Thank you for joining me for this edition of Alan After Dark. Remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon.